It's just there's so much pressure from such a young age. You're bound to think, am I making the right decision?
The college just essentially said, we're going to ask you to leave or boot me out, basically. I did 8 months of gardening, and then I went into working at a coffee shop, worked in a pub, worked in a restaurant.
I didn't think that I had it in me to then up and leave my home and go to university. And I did it because I didn't really want to disappoint anybody. I had a very negative experience. It made me feel like I couldn't talk to anybody. I felt very isolated. I was very worried, and anxiety definitely took over.
Sort of went against maybe what I would want to do over what I think would probably be more sensible. Used lockdown as to my advantage. I didn't just want to sit in my room and do nothing. I was also interviewing for Google, which was incredibly nerve-wracking.
Welcome to Dear Younger Self. As you know, the podcast is about youth. So today I have 3 amazing guests, 3 youths that will talk about all the different challenges that we face today, or the young people that face today. So first, we have Louis. I'm going to hand over to Louis, who's going to tell us a bit more about your life, the journey you've had so far, and everything that you face today. So please do share.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. I think I'll just start from college, really. So finished school and got into a local college in Guildford, where I'm from, and went through A-level and got through the first year and didn't do very well at all. And the college just essentially said, you know, we're going to ask you to leave or boot me out, basically. And from then on, like, I obviously knew that uni wasn't necessarily an option, so I just decided to get stuck in and go straight into work. And over the next 3 or 4 years, I was doing loads and loads of different jobs. I did 8 months of gardening, and then I went into working at a coffee shop, worked in a pub, worked in a restaurant, saved up a bit of money. And then I just thought, you know, if I'm not going to carry on my education, I may as well go and see a bit of the world. So thought I'd move over to Australia when I was 19 and see where I got with that, basically. So I got over to Australia, was there for about 8 months with one of my best mates, just sort of travelling around, spending all our money that we just earned, working for a couple of months, travelling again. And then we ended up in Sydney, where again I was doing a bit of marketing on the side of working at a restaurant. And then unfortunately, the bad news that my dad had a heart attack back in the UK, so I had to pretty sharpish come back to Guildford, and then life definitely changed a lot for me, and I had to almost grow up and just take a completely different role within the family, which, you know, I'd never been used to before, and something that my dad was doing that whole time. And then I sort of carried on working in pubs, coffee shops, up until lockdown, where none of those were open whatsoever. So I was back at home with mum, not doing a lot, sort of feeling very, very sorry for myself. And that's where I reached out to the Prince's Trust and just looked for literally anything, whether it was just being able to go and learn an instrument or try and find a course that I could do just to sort of keep time ticking along during lockdown and keep myself busy. And then I came across Wick Digital, which I met Amy in, where you basically, they taught you the fundamentals of digital marketing, and then gave you some real life experience with a little budget that you could go and help a small business with. And then ended up getting a job at OMD from that, which was awesome. And whilst I was working at OMD, I applied for the apprenticeship at Google, and here we are, 15 months into the apprenticeship, and then, you know, opportunities like this come along where, you know, we end up doing a podcast about young professionals.
Yeah. I love that story because, you know, you had a bit of a struggle in school, college, but you didn't give up, right? You went traveling, but obviously you had to come back, and then you kept at it. I think that drive is what I love about young people, is I'm not going to give up. And it's really good to see that example. And OMD, the media agency, obviously you got the job.
Yeah.
And then you now at Google as an apprentice, and you're doing really well. So, of course, more to come on that. But yeah, thanks for sharing.
No, absolutely.
Let me switch to you, Ruby. Tell me about your story.
Yeah, thanks, Danish. I think I'll sort of start pre-lockdown as well. Start where the fun was. So I studied GCSEs at school, and I sort of found a real passion for music and drama through doing them for GCSEs, and I then sort of focused my career on wanting to do something in the sort of music industry. But I sort of found that it can be quite limiting, and I didn't want to feel like I would only be able to do one certain thing because it's such a competitive career. So I ended up not studying anything music or drama related at college, and sort of went against maybe what I would want to do over what I think would probably be more sensible. So I ended up doing business, geography and English language, which I really enjoyed. And then I sort of did like music extracurricularly. So I played a lot of guitar in lockdown and sort of progressed and used lockdown as to my advantage, I guess, because I didn't just want to sit in my room and do nothing.
Yeah.
So I sort of really enjoyed playing music and learning new skills in that. And then doing my A-levels, I got through them just about. It was really tricky, I think, and as I was picking universities at the end of my A-levels, I always wanted to go to uni. I felt like that was sort of the path to success, I guess. And I also applied for an apprenticeship at Google, like Amy and Louis, because I'd always wanted to work for Google. And I found that when I was applying for university, I was going with a mindset that I wanted to end up at a company like Google. So I applied for this and then also applied for unis. And throughout applying for unis and doing A-levels, I was also interviewing for Google, which was, as you guys know, incredibly nerve-wracking and a difficult process, and also stressful when you're doing it in exam season. But I managed to get it, and like yourself, I went travelling in the summer, and because maybe I was a bit of a try-hard, I was in Bangkok slightly jet-lagged and was checking my emails in the middle of the night just to see if I heard anything. And then I found out that I got that, and here I am today. And I think that this is a really good career to be in digital marketing because it's so widespread. So I don't feel limited if I decide, I have no idea what I want to do. So if I decide in the future I want to go down music, or I want to go down aviation or other things that I'm interested in, this feels like a really good point to be because it's not limiting at all. It feels like there's a lot of freedom. So.
It's again another incredible story because you actually got offers from a university, but you chose not to go to university and you took the actual work route, which is the apprenticeship that you're doing, right? So again, it takes quite a lot of guts to do that because you're pretty much going against the grain, right?
Yeah, I suppose I didn't really want to conform to sort of what the basis is for society. Like, it seems that universities is the route that most people go down, and for me something about it just didn't feel right. So this definitely feels like the right place to be right now.
Thank you for sharing. Amy, what's your story?
So I started like sixth form too. So I got to sixth form and I'd actually switched schools. I must admit I don't do very well with change, so that was hard enough as it is. And my school was very, very university focused, and instead of A-levels I did the International Baccalaureate, so I had a full timetable for 2 years. It was definitely a struggle to get through that. I managed to get all the grades that I wanted, but it was also the year that the pandemic had hit and I had to finish sixth form early as well. My sixth form actually forced me into applying for university, so I did it, and I did it because I didn't really want to disappoint anybody. So I just picked the subjects that I thought I was good at. So I applied to do history and politics joint honours. The offers came back. I did get all 5 offers. However, those 2 years of sixth form were so full on and there was so much pressure that I was really struggling mentally at this point. And I didn't think that I had it in me to then up and leave my home and go to university. And the university that I would have chosen would have been York, so a fair amount away from home as well. And I didn't really want to do that change, and also I'm very practical. I prefer to do things instead of like study, and those 2 years definitely taught me that. And then I suffered a lot of backlash actually and I felt a lot of guilt as well that I didn't want any of the offers that I had got. So I decided to decline my offers. However, I then decided to defer York University for a year, and the gap year was very difficult. In the middle of lockdown, we had 2 lockdowns that year. I could barely do anything. At this point, I was struggling even more. I was in my room all day. I'm the sort of person that needs to do something 24/7. I just can't not do something. So at this point, I was a bit stuck. So I actually reached out to the Princess Trust. And I asked if they could help out with anything. I was just eager to either like learn something, work, or do something, take a course. I just wanted to better myself at this point. So I reached out, and I actually started to get into employment with them, and they actually set me up with M&S first. So during lockdown, there was nothing open apart from really like supermarkets and stuff like that. So I actually started working at M&S as a Christmas temp. And then once that had finished, I then got back in touch with the Princess Trust and said, okay, oh no, I'm stuck again. I'm in that same situation. And that's when Wick Digital came about. And my mentor said to me, how about marketing? And at first I was like, I'm not too sure. But then I decided to enroll myself in the course. I did that. I did the analytics track. It was amazing. And then my mindset completely switched. And I thought, instead of thinking, okay, I'm stuck now, I can't do anything, my mindset shifted to, okay, here's an opportunity. I can actually really better myself here, do something, enjoy it. And that marketing was something that I was really interested in now. So then I applied to Omnicom. I got a role at OMD as a biddable assistant. And then during that time, Wick Digital had actually told me about a role at Google as an apprentice and about Multiverse, a training provider. So I went on to Multiverse. I started applying for lots of apprenticeships, Google being the one that I wanted. I stuck through all the applications. I got a few offers and declined them all because I was waiting for Google. And then I'd finally got the offer from Google. So yeah, that was like a lot of hope for me, and then I accepted it. And now, like Louis said, we're 15 months in. It's definitely been a journey, but an amazing one. And now we're ready for our next steps.
I love your story as well. It is a good example of resilience. You know, very early days, sixth form, and then chained, and school pressure, and then uni pressure, and then gap year, and then so on, right? So I think resilience is a really important skill today because there's so much going on, and change is normal. So for all of us, and especially the young people, to adapt to change and to be flexible around change, it takes a lot of resilience. So thank you for sharing. I'll keep with you. When you talk about, you know, the backlash, what impact did it have on your mental health?
I had a very negative experience, and it made me feel like I couldn't talk to anybody. I felt very isolated. I was very worried, and anxiety definitely took over most of the time. I felt very stuck where I was, because if I spoke to someone, especially like my school, and my parents didn't really understand either why I didn't want to go, and I felt like I actually couldn't explain also why I didn't want to go. I couldn't come up with like one solid reason, which made it kind of worse. So I don't think anyone really understood what was going in my brain at that point, but I definitely struggled a lot. The kind of backlash I received was a lot of hate. My school really did not understand. They would ring me up and ask me like, are you sure you don't want to change your mind? And that was a lot of added pressure as well, because I'm the type of person that I would like to keep people happy. But I really struggled at this point to say like, no, this is what I want to do. So I'm glad I put my foot down in the end, but it definitely took a toll. Yeah.
I think the societal pressure, including, you know, your parents' school or whoever else, is quite a lot, because there's a, you know, set way that is set out in the world that, you know, you do this and then you do that and you do that, and everybody has to follow the same path. And then when you try to go sort of a bit against the grain, you get that backlash, and that's basically what you felt. And I guess we need to be a bit more embracing of different paths versus just saying this is the only path, right? Which is important. Did you, so Ruby or Louis, did you guys kind of experience similar mental health challenges when you were going through, you know, decision making, whether to do, you know, college, uni, A levels, whatever?
Yeah, I think so. I think It's just there's so much pressure from such a young age that you're bound to think, am I making the right decision? Like, we made A-level, I think we picked our A-levels like when we were 16, and that's young to be picking your life choices,
Right.
where you're really going to end up. Some people will pick like biology or chemistry and because they want to become a doctor, but then if you have a career change, you might need, some jobs require certain A-levels, or university places require you to take certain things. So if you change your mind, which is almost inevitable because you change as a person, that it can be really tricky to think, am I making the right decision? And you might have regrets, or like Amy said, feel guilty that you're not picking a certain option or path in life that you feel you should be making.
Right.
And I think it can definitely damage you mentally.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I'm definitely someone that needs to know why I'm doing something before I do it. And when you come out of school, and there's so many different courses you can do at college and at uni, and you haven't done them, so you don't know what they're about, right? For me, that was just I was just quite nervous about making the wrong decision, and therefore just quite tentative about making the decisions that I did at college, because at the end of the day I had no idea what the next 2 years was going to be about. Sociology,
Right.
You can have an understanding, but what you're actually learning, you may not enjoy it, and then if you don't enjoy it, then for me, like, I won't do as well because I'm not enjoying it. And then it got to the situation I was in where
So all of you didn't go to uni for various reasons, but if you look at what uni is offering today, do you think there's a bit of a mismatch with what is what is out there in practical world, professionally or otherwise, versus what universities are teaching? Do you think there's a big day and night gap there, or not, or it depends?
I think I can speak about this a little. So I have like family members who have recently graduated from university, or like friends who are currently coming to the end of university, and I do think a lot of them are actually struggling for jobs a bit, and I think nowadays as well, a lot of job listings are really after like experience, and obviously you never really know what they mean by how much experience they want. So I do definitely think like doing the practical side of things and being on that practical side, I've learnt that I feel like I am in a way one step ahead, and that universities don't necessarily, they give you a lot of knowledge but they don't necessarily like prep you for a job after. And I find also that a lot of my friends who have finished university actually don't do anything related to what they've learnt at all. So I feel like they've studied for those 3 years or maybe 4 years, etc., and then they come out of university, they get a job, and it's like, why did I do the degree? Because my job is not relevant at all to what I learned.
Because the need becomes more real, right, versus what your ambitions are, and then you always choose the need that I need to pay for myself, or bills, or rent, etc., right? So then you just pick up whatever is given to you versus actually pursuing what you set out in the first place by choosing the degree, right? What about you guys? How do you feel about the universities and what they teach today versus what they should?
Yeah, I can take this one. I think definitely with actual working experience, it's and doing something like an apprenticeship, it enables you to, once you do go for a role that you really want to do and take you to that next level, you have those talking points that you can talk about in the interview. Be like, this is what I owned and this is what I did, and then you can go into the details of it with all the strategy and everything, and just take your point of view from the work that you did. Whereas, like Amy was saying, if you're just learning about it, you don't have those talking points in the interview. So that's what I would say.
And then, so all of you went for the Google interview, right? And it's probably one of the hardest interviews if you I guess think about it, like tech industry. But what help was available out there to prepare? So Ruby, if you want to take this one, was there any help available? Like, schools don't teach you how to do interviews, neither does university in a way. I mean, some do, some don't. So what did you do to prepare, and what can be done?
Yeah, a lot of it was initiative. I didn't have any help in terms of interviews from school or anything, which is a shame, because I think that should be a definite academic requirement, because everybody has to do an interview. Most people have to do an interview for a job. I ended up Googling and just seeing, right, how on earth do I tackle an interview? Because I've done interviews before, but nothing for like a tech company like Google. So I was like massively apprehensive. I was like, I want to come across how I want to come across, but should I change myself to seem like I'm some like intelligent Googler? Because I really didn't feel like I was capable of getting the role. I just wanted it for experience. I wanted the interviews to have the experience of interviewing with a Googler. But I ended up going on YouTube and watching like, I think there was Jeff H. Sipe on YouTube. Did you watch him as well? No.
I've seen it though.
Yeah. He has some like really great interview prep and practice. And then also like going down the traditional route, I literally had my parents interview me as well. But when it came to the interviews, I treated it as a conversation. And I love talking to people and hearing about them. So I think a lot of the interviews I spent like asking the interviewer questions about themselves and their role. But yeah, I sort of, as soon as I got in and I was sort of preparing myself to actually do the interview, it was okay. But I think, yeah, the best way I sort of went about it is treating it as a conversation, which sort of helped ease the nerves as well.
And Amy, what was your journey before the interview? Did you prepare? Did you have any help?
So unfortunately, I was standalone on this one. I didn't get any help whatsoever. I used my initiative also. I basically created a massive Word document and just like brainstormed everything I'd done, whether it was like group projects at school. So I started with like core skills. I was like, they're bound to ask me about like teamwork or something like that. So I started to like jot down my examples. And that's how I kind of did it. And then I thought, they might ask me about like the industry and stuff. So I did use Google a lot and also YouTube to learn about like recent campaigns or anything that could help me and equip me with the knowledge to like show what's about like what's going on in the industry. And I also signed up to a ton of newsletters like Google Digest to give me like recent updates about the industry, and that's how I did it.
So Louis, what's your perspective on this?
So to help me kind of get through all the different stages of the interviews, because there was a phone interview and then there was a few sort of face-to-face ones on virtual calls. I utilised the Prince's Trust. So I had a mentor with the Prince's Trust, and just over the weeks that I was interviewing, I had a one-to-one with them every week, just going through interview questions and how I could answer them differently, and if a question was asked, how I would sort of interpret what I was doing at OMD into the answer, and what I did at WIC during lockdown, and then some of my life experience managing people at pubs, which there's definitely some transferable skills there. So I definitely utilise the Prince's Trust.
What I'm listening from all three of you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there isn't one place or there isn't a milestone or a sort of like a check-in where, whether it's school or college or university, or even when you're working at different places, that will prepare you for the next thing or for the job interviews, right? Which is a bit of a shame, because the whole point of going or studying or whatever you're doing, and everybody has a job or company, whatever they do, right? So everybody interviews, as you said, right? So it should be almost a skill taught as by default, versus let's figure it out. Let's stand alone, as you said, Amy, right? Or just use your parents, or maybe someone at pub, whatever. It's so what can you, like, if you were to design like some kind of solution for this, what would be the ideal thing here, Ruby?
Good question. I think because most people go to school or have done their GCSEs and then maybe less so have done A-levels, I think having like a member of staff at your college or sixth form or school dedicated to helping you through an interview process would be helpful. There was ample help getting into university at my college. They had help with personal statements. They had like mentors to sort of guide you through any university interviews, which I guess you can still take to your advantage if you're applying for an apprenticeship. But university interviews and job interviews are very different.
Right.
So I think having a member of staff that is there whenever you need it to sort of practice interviews or go through interview questions, I think that would have been helpful in hindsight.
Amy?
I actually feel quite strongly about this. I think schools should have better procedures in place. I think personally, I think there should be some sort of career readiness or like a career academy sort of things in school that's like everyone can go through. But then I also think there should also be a separation to that. So that's like jobs and stuff. But I also think there should be like a dedicated support for like apprenticeships as well. I think it should be a requirement to have that in place. And I think from what I say, like career readiness, I feel like that would equip young people a lot better as well for like what to expect, to prepare skills. And I think it's like the self-realisation as well of like what you've done, and how to like present yourself and give yourself that branding. I think that would just be a solid idea.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's almost a bit sad that the recent government the budget for was supporting the young people actually has been slashed, which is not the way it should be. It should be at the minimum very equally spread across. So hopefully someone in the government is listening to this and to you guys, and they will think about it at the minimum, right? I want to switch gears to expectations from society, and social media is a thing in everyone's lives right now, and there's some kind of expectation that is built up because of that, in addition to society, whether that is school or parents, as we talk about, or whoever else, right? And then you add social media on top, you see this ideal thing on social media, but it's really just their lives. Maybe it's ideal for them, but not for everybody. So it paints a certain picture in people's mind, and it may be causing some kind of mental health issues as a result of that. What's your experience with social media and the societal pressures, and how do you deal with that, Louis?
I'm on social media, but there's just so many different apps now that I personally find it quite hard to keep up. And if I did have all the different apps with Be Real, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn, I think I would generally spend most of my day on my phone, which is what they want at the end of the day. But
right.
I personally find it quite hard to keep up with it all. So I try and stick to just a couple that I'm interested in, or where my friends are, basically. There is a pressure to have all of them, I guess, because you might get FOMO from you might miss out on a job opportunity on LinkedIn if you don't have it, or if you don't present yourself properly on it, or you might miss out on something on Twitter. I don't know, I'll pass it to you two, but I don't actually have that much social media because I just try and stay away from it.
Yeah.
Which is actually quite an interesting point in itself, that too much of anything is not good for you. You have to almost like be on social media, but also create your own boundaries, which is what you've done, right? That, okay, well, I'm not going to have all of them, and I'm okay to just not have whichever one, and I'll be fine with just using one or two, and then just use them in a very specific way, versus sit on your phone all day and just kind of, because it almost becomes like a full-time job in itself if you had like 6 social media profiles, right?
Exactly, yeah. And then there's stuff like Be Real as well, where you post when they want you to post almost, and then you spend that next hour or half an hour looking through what all your friends have posted at that specific time, and it's just like, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
What about you, Amy or Ruby?
Yeah, thank God we have a job, right? Because otherwise, I would probably be on my phone more than I should. I think my main issue with social media is it tends to draw people away from living in the moment. And don't get me wrong, if I'm at a concert and there's a song that I really like, I'll record a bit of the song, right? Because I want to remember that moment. But I think it can be taken to the extreme where you'll be in a really great moment for yourself. You'll be on holiday or something, or there's a something's really, really good is happening to you right now, and the first thought that people have is, oh, I'm going to take up my phone and put this on Facebook or Instagram or whatever you use. And I have to be so careful to not let myself into that sort of mindset, because we're on this planet, we're on a floating rock, right, in space, and we only have one life, and we've got to enjoy every minute. And I don't want to make myself start thinking I want to show this to other people before I enjoy it myself, because whoever's going to look at that photo that you've posted isn't going to enjoy that moment through a screen as much as you could enjoy it in that moment.
You talked about FOMO. What about peer pressure? So if you're not on Be Real, how does peer pressure play into this? Have you experienced that, or is it not a thing in your life?
I mean, yeah, like the FOMO point is very true, because I think if all your friends are on this one social media app, and especially if there's like a chat element to it, that can definitely pressure you into getting the app. Like Instagram has DMs, right? I think I was pretty young when I first got Instagram, maybe like 11 or 12, but I only got it because all of my friends in my class had like a group chat on it. Right. And I was like, I want a bit of that. So that's why I downloaded it. But there's some apps that I haven't downloaded because I just think I don't want to waste my time on my phone. So yeah, but I think, to be honest, I think if you download more apps, like say you download TikTok, Snapchat and Instagram, but you originally only had Snapchat, I find that it could mean that you're on your phone more. Like it could result in you to be scrolling mindlessly for ages. But I think a lot of the time it sort of takes your attention away from one app and you use that time on another app. But it is, I think it depends on the person.
And Amy, has the actual content influenced you in a way that, creates a bit of a like, oh, maybe I should be on this fancy holiday, or maybe I should buy this car because I see the perfect image that is painted in social media? Has the content influenced you, and what do you do about that? Or what can young people do that? If you were to advise young people, what would you?
I have actually experienced this, particularly Instagram with like the whole body image thing. So I actually decided to take myself off the app. I don't post, I don't scroll through the feed, I only reply to messages on DM. Apart from that, I'm hardly on the app unless I get a message. I've taken myself off a lot of social media. I don't really use Snapchat anymore or anything. I think it's a great thing where I get to see what my friends are up to. None of my friends really live near me at all, so it's nice to keep updated with like what they're doing and stuff. But then I do sometimes think, what am I doing with my life? Like they're having all this fun, for example, like, oh, I wish I could do that. But then I realised that a lot of the social media is like the best parts of their life. They only ever post when they're doing something great, or they're watching something great, or hanging out with their friends. But if you're alone in your room, you don't post, right? And I think that's a reality shock. Like social media is not reality, and I think I had to come to terms with that quite a bit. So I do actually like Be Real, only because I get to see what people are up to in the moment. But I do think even apps like that are fake sometimes. People wait for like the perfect moment in the day. They know they're going to go see a concert at 9 p.m. Be Real went off at 2 p.m, but they post at 9 p.m. because they want people to see their best life.
Right.
But I think I've really come to terms with that now. I've taken myself off a lot of things, or if I see something, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but that's someone else's life, it's not mine.
Exactly. I think it takes a lot on your mind to kind of make that shift, because the FOMO is real, and the one way to deal with that is to be content with what you have, whether you're sitting in a room and doing nothing, or maybe you're on a holiday. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not about the show off that you see in social media, but rather, are you happy with yourself and whatever that you have? Doesn't matter what that is. It could be a fancy thing, it could be nothing, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? As long as you're happy, that's more important than anything else, right? Let's switch gears into the wonderful world that we live in today of cost of living crisis is real. We just we're out of pandemic, technically speaking. What kind of toll it takes on young people, this whole financial pressure? Well, Amy, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm in a very fortunate position as an apprentice. I get paid a lot of money and I'm very thankful for that. And I'm quite fortunate as well at the moment where I do live at home. I don't have to pay rent or anything. But I see a lot of my friends around me who are living in central London. They're paying their rent and they're really struggling right now. They don't have a lot of money spare. So I'm in quite a fortunate situation, but I think as well, like the ways that I spend my money. So for example, stress reliever for me is ice skating. I do figure skating weekly. It's really fun, but the cost of living crisis has upped my coaching money, it's upped the ice rink money, and I think it's really hard to budget my money now. I have to travel used to be like £10 for me. I'm now spending £20 a day just to get into central London. It's doubled.
Wow.
So I'm seeing the cost of living definitely affect my money and my wages, and I'm definitely not able to save a lot of money now, which I do also worry about for like the future. So I'm actually looking to move out relatively soon. I'm hoping to like mid next year be out. But at the moment, I see it as a dreaded thing. I see it as I don't know what my next steps are yet. I don't know how much money I have, and I see it right now as like not very viable. I don't see it as like a good thing. I see it more as like a strain on me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it should be an exciting thing, right? Getting your own place, but it's the opposite feeling because of the world we live in today. Ruby?
Yeah, I can sympathise with that. I like Amy said, we're in a very lucky position as apprentices. I know some of my friends that are at uni are really struggling, especially a lot of my friends are in London. And it's tough. It's really, really tough. And like Amy said, travel prices have gone up. I can't find a place in London to live because there's so many factors impacting it. Like prices are expensive. I mean, it's London, so I was sort of expecting that. Yeah. But it's also incredibly competitive because so many people that need a home far more than I do are looking for a room. You know, I'm on like Facebook groups trying to find a spare room, and there's some families that are like parents with 2 kids that just need a room in London, and it's heartbreaking to see because it's so competitive, and I've sort of taken a step back from it now, and like Amy said, I'm living with my parents on the south coast because I think I want to wait for the competition to die down, and I think there's people that need a room far more than I do, and yeah, I think it's really, really tricky for people at the minute.
That is very kind of you. I was reading Financial Times, and it said that 50% of the university students today are going to face or are facing significant struggles because of cost of living crisis, and the struggles being that actually they're taking out more loans, or they're not actually able to afford food even. Which is shocking because that's the bare minimum we need to do for the students for them to be comfortable so that they can study, and then they can go on to hopefully get jobs and so on, right? So the fact that you're saying that you have friends in uni struggling, it's basically the proof in the pudding, really, that it's not good out there for the young people, and it's not like it's getting any better anytime soon. Hopefully it will. I'm optimistic, but I think it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
Louis?
Yeah, well, I mean, being in my mid-20s, it's definitely, I feel like I definitely should have moved out already.
But is that because of the society expectation that you have to move out, or is it something that you really want to do, or a bit of both? I
think it's a bit of both. I think it's, like I said earlier, I went to Australia to sort of go and live there and sort of not come back, basically. And then I came back and lockdown happened, and that was a couple of years in lockdown living at home, and I get on really well with my mum, which is great. But then we've sort of come out the other end, and I'll be 26 in January, and it's I'm still living in my mum's spare room, so it is one of those things where I 100% want to move out, and like it's part of my own path, as it were, and then. Yeah, but I think there is some pressure as well. It is a little bit embarrassing when you're talking to people and it's like, oh yeah, I'm 26, still live with my mum. But at the moment, it's not economically feasible for me to move up to London. And as the apprenticeship's coming to an end and trying to find a new role, I want to make sure that I feel safe in that role and that it's secure and that the money's right for it. So that's another 6 months. So I think it's, there's a fine line between just going for it and see what happens, or trying to be smart about it. But then, if you're being smart about it, at this point, I wouldn't have moved out until I'm 35. But it's tricky.
It's tricky, yeah. So what can be done about this whole financial instability, and specifically what can the government do, or people in the position of influence and power, to help the young people? What's that one thing they can do?
That's a good question. I think after COVID there's just been so much damage economically, and I'm not sure what would be done to sort of unwind this other than time. There should be something, but it definitely feels like we're all at a bit of a loss at the minute, and that there's still there will be for a while, the everlasting damages of COVID. But I think there should be, for the uni students, for example, there should be somebody at the university or somebody external that can help with sort of loans and advice and things like that.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I think something maybe great to have is there's probably something in place, but it's not widespread, and known, for example. But making it known, maybe there's places to go. If you're having financial struggles, you can speak to someone, you can plan out budgets and stuff like that. Or if you're getting yourself in debt, for example, student debt, or you're having to take out extra loans, like you said, you can speak to someone about that, and then come up with a solid plan of how you're going to close that gap, basically. So I think maybe support is there, I don't know, but if it is there, it should be more widely known, or if it isn't there, it should definitely be there.
Yeah, and I was just going to add to that, I think just having, companies, people, whoever it is, to reach out to almost learn how to budget your money and what you've got would be great.
Excellent, yeah. I mean, I can talk up to you guys all day because there's so many issues and, so many opportunities as well at the same time for young people. But, we have to end somewhere. One of the last questions I ask all the guests is if you were young again, and you guys are very young compared to me at least, but if you were, 16 again or 18 again and, looking at your journeys, and if you were that age again today, what would you say to yourself? What would be the message to yourself? So, dear Amy.
I think if I talked to my younger self, I would definitely tell her, don't panic too much. It's okay, we're each on our own journey. You don't have to conform to what everyone else wants. Lead your own path and you'll be absolutely fine. And I think another thing as well is embrace your youth. I think I definitely missed out on being a child. Sometimes I was too wrapped up in my head about what I needed to do or the right thing to do for other people that I didn't live in the moment. Especially in sixth form, I would say no to all my friends to going out because I was too worried about getting the grades or getting my university offers, for example, or doing something that I just didn't live in the moment. I didn't enjoy myself. So I think if I spoke to my younger self, definitely take things as it come, don't panic, and just live in the moment.
Dear Ruby.
Yeah, very similar to yours. I think, say to my 12-year-old self, just don't panic and everything's going to be okay, and enjoy every moment of school because I think people say this all the time, but school was the best days of your life, but it really was. And I wish I never sort of skived, which I didn't do, Mum. But yeah, I wish I just enjoyed every day and took subjects that I really wanted to do, which I did to a certain extent, but I wish I sort of made the most out of every day, and everything will turn out right. Everybody has sort of a goal they want to do, and to any advice to anybody that's sort of 12 and above, sort of pursue that dream and go for it because you're capable of doing it.
Thank you. Dear Louis?
Yes, I would say to my younger self that it's okay not to have all the answers. I think, just just go for whatever it is you want to do. If you come up with an idea and you see a job, you see something that you want to do, you want to go and visit a country or whatever it is, just go and be fearless with it. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to get through it, and especially, you know, coming into a bigger company like Google, like, I didn't do very well at school, so this was something that was completely unfeasible for me.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't have any of the answers, but I don't think anyone's expecting you to have the answers when you're younger. It's just the pressure that you put on yourself. So I think it's okay not having the answers, and therefore just asking loads of questions along the way would be my advice to myself.
Thank you, all of you. This is genuinely very inspiring. This is the one reason I started this podcast in the first place, to make a difference to youth, and to hear directly from young people is something that will help me keep going. So thank you for sharing all your journeys and all the insights and all your opinions. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's been great.